This is the WFNY BrownsCast, following the Browns crushing loss to the Ravens 23-20. I'm your host, Joe Gilbert. I'm solo again as Taylor Jerzak, my user partner, is off getting married, cruising around right now, I would suppose, right now. So, again, congrats to him on the wedding. But yeah, this is another WFNY Brownscast, part of the Evergreen Podcast Network. We are brought to you by today BreakingT.com. It's a great collection of T-shirts. They can do they do all the teams in Cleveland, Browns, Cavs, and Guardians. So it's a fun collection. If you go to BreakingT.com/WFNY. You can get 10% off on your purchase. So that's breakingtea.com. Okay. So we are talking about another loss here. It was another one where they could have won, should have won, but they again fall short of getting that W. The offense was the failure today. It was a switch from most of the season this year. The Ravens didn't do much on offense. Lamar Jackson, gosh, he only had 120 yards passing on 9 passes, and then he rushed only 59 yards. So if I told you that before the game, I don't know. I don't know how many Browns fans would have said, "Oh, we were going to lose this game," but somehow the Browns did. The defense could play one team. It seems like right now, Joe Woods knows how to defend one team, and that's the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. You wouldn't think that because that would be one of the harder matchups in the league, but here we are, and the Browns have successfully defended them again. But the offense failed. They had for pretty much instead of after the first drive or first 2 drives of the game, and then probably the last 2 drives of the game, they didn't do what they should have. The offensive line was bulldozed for much of the game. They couldn't run for much of the game. They didn't run because they were getting killed at the point of attack. For I think it was in the third quarter, they were averaging 1.9 yards per carry. They finally got it together towards the end of the third quarter into the fourth quarter, when the offensive line started to play well, at least in the run game. Nick Chubb started to get going, and he ended up with 91 yards. So he had a good game, but it just wasn't enough. It wasn't. They just had too big of a time frame where they couldn't do anything. Brissett, as we have now learned, when he is stuck with being the catalyst for this offense, it's not good. He struggled. They couldn't do much of anything. So Browns are fall to 2-5, which is just not where we all expected it to be. At least what I expected, but here we are. Let's talk about kind of the end of the game there. That was the tough part. They get the ball back with about 3 minutes and 12 seconds left. After a great forced fumble by JOK, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah on defense. Got the ball back around the 20-yard line, so they had to drive down the field. Jacoby made some great plays on that drive, I have to say. He eluded some rushers, got some yards with his legs, and then made a great pass to Donovan Peoples-Jones for a big gain to get over midfield. Then it kind of went downhill. The first play of the drive, the final series or final set of downs, it started off with a pitch to the tight end. If you saw what the Ravens did against trying to defend the run on that play, it wouldn't have helped if they passed it off to the running back either. I think there's 2 defenders going towards Chubb, I believe it was, on that drive. So the run play wouldn't have worked either. They were definitely trying to make Jacoby beat them, and he couldn't on that drive. He did do a nice second down pass where he got to a manageable third and two, but he made a deep pass. It was one of those things like you wish he didn't have to make that home run play. It was there, but I don't think he needed it there. It ended up being a pass on Amari Cooper. Um, Obviously, it was by the rule. Was an offense pass interference. There's so many times I see in the NFL where that's not called, but here we are. It is what it is. It was the right call by the rules. So that pushed him back to 3rd and 12, and I believe he scrambled for about a 5 or 6 yard game to force a fourth and 5, which they try to kick a field goal. That's going to be the controversial play that we talk about for the next week or here. They call a false start on the Browns on number 68. It was a very controversial call. It sure looked like the Ravens were the ones offsides. Nevertheless, that pushed them back 5 more yards, so it was a 60-yard field goal for Cade York, which is just extremely hard for anybody. And the kick was blocked, so it wasn't really on Cade. Cade just had it. He had to kick it low on those kicks. You got to kick it low and to make it that distance, and the Ravens just somehow got it deflected, and the Browns lose. They did get it back at the end of the game, but it was 12 seconds left on the 25-yard line. That's tough for any offense to do. So Browns lose. It's tough to. I know you can blame the refs and the kind of controversial calls at the end that kind of swayed it into the Ravens' hands. They also missed a roughing the passer on the DPJ long pass on the final drive. Brissett was hit very late, hit very hard by 2 defenders, and there's no penalty. So kind of rough. Browns need all the help they can get, and they didn't get any. They got kind of blasted by the refs too. So, but nonetheless, the Browns lost. It was on their shoulders. The offense didn't do enough. You can't be absent from the game for 2.5 quarters, because they didn't do anything after that first 2 drives, and then middle of the third, end of the third is when they started to get it going again. It was just too late, too much time to allow the Ravens to get ahead, and this team is not built to fight from behind right now with Jacoby Brissett as their quarterback. It's gonna be another week of questions. Like, where's this? The next week is a must win. We'll talk about this in our preview next week, but Browns have to win. Like they if they lose the Bengals this season, it's looking bad right now. But if they lose next week, you can pretty much mark it for next year. We're at that stage where games are going to be must wins, because they keep failing in these late game situations. And it's another close loss. They've lost 5 games this year, and all 4 of those games were close, under 5 points, I believe it is. And that's just, it's crushing. It's another bad loss. The kind of what I want to focus on now is just like the offense. It just seems like it's one thing after another with what they're struggling with. The first script drive of the game was great. Stefanski is probably one of the best script writers of first drives in the league because they score on that drive pretty frequently. And then, but after those two drives, they just kind of stalled. The offensive line was getting crushed by the Baltimore front. They, as I said, about midway or towards the end of the third quarter, they were averaging 1.9 yards per carry, and that was or 1.5 yards per carry. And I think Chubb was only averaging 2.9 yards per carry. So it's not like giving him the ball would have been successful during that period of time. They just kind of started blocking well in the end of the game. Like as if you go back to watch it this week, just take a look at early in the game. They were just getting crushed on the front. The offensive line played really bad. They just didn't. Let's see, and then pass protection, they were getting crushed. It was not a good day for the front. I know they were out without Wyatt Teller, but one guy being down should not be the detriment of the whole entire offensive line. Jedrick Wills played bad. He's been playing better in the last couple weeks, but this was not a good game. He gave up some rushes, and it's just not good. It was not good for the offensive line. Um, in terms of Jacoby Brissett, he was up and down. The Brissett kind of showed some nice plays with his legs, but then he would sit in the pocket. He caused a couple sacks on him because of just holding onto the ball. He held onto the ball way too long and on a couple occasions, and it just killed him. So that was his accuracy was better. He completed what was his completion percentage? So 22 of 27, so a lot better than last week, and back to kind of his normal accuracy. It seems like he's 60%, so he's above that. But still wasn't good enough. He missed some plays out there. But that's who Jacoby Brissett is, and they can't rely on him to be the guy to win the games. This rushing attack has to be better. The blocking has to be better. That was a bad performance by the offensive line. They took way too long to kind of get going, and by that time it was a little too late. They took too much time to start kind of grinding the ball, and I know people kind of go back on Stefanski on why the heck he didn't run the ball more. But if you look in the first half, I just want you guys to go to the first half. The offensive line was getting crushed up front, and you're not going to waste your time when you're averaging 1.5 yards a carry. You're not going to waste your time running the ball. And when that happens, you're putting it on a quarterback that is not built for being the leading catalyst of an offense. So it was a tough spot. The middle of the game looked like the Patriots game, and how the Browns were defended. The Patriots went out full stop on the run game and try to force Brissett to beat them, and he didn't. Ravens did that too for much of the middle of the part of the game, and Brissett couldn't beat him. But luckily, the Browns kind of got their mojo back when the O line was producing bigger holes towards the end of the third quarter into the fourth. But it was again way too late. They went down. I believe it was 10 points at that point. So they're not a team with a margin of error. With Jacoby Brissett, there's just no margin of error. They can't fall in these big holes and kind of dig back because he's just not that type of quarterback to do that. So that's basically the offense. They did have some big games through the air. David Njoku was lost midway in the third quarter, I think it was. But he had 7 catches for 71 yards still. So he was their leading reception guy. But Amari Cooper led the team in receiving yards, and Donovan Peoples-Jones also had that big catch. So through the air, there was definitely some production there, but just not enough. And then on defense, that was their best performance of the year. I just hate that they that this offense kind of kicked it away. They let this great performance kind of go by the wayside because the Browns defense they they did everything they could. They really did. Excuse me. Yeah, holding this offense to 254 yards and just 23 points. I don't know what else you could have asked for. Yeah, they did give up some bad run on a couple drives. They were just gouged by it was like the supposed to be beginning of the first half, and then late in the game they were gouged by the run game. But we kind of knew that coming in. This team is weak up the middle, and they were going to gouge us. But they did. The Browns pass rush was great. I don't know how many pressures they're going to get officially, but they had 5 sacks. Like if you had 5 sacks, you should win the game. And or sorry, 3 sacks. Sorry, Baltimore had 5 sacks. Cleveland had 3 sacks, but there's numerous pressures. They blitz more than usual, and that kind of got Lamar and the Ravens offense a little in the muck there. So it was Joe Woods stepped up today. I know. I wouldn't have thought that before the game, but somehow this is just a good matchup for Joe Woods. He knows how to defend Lamar, and he's done it well in his career so far. So I can't really take anything. This there's just not a lot of things you can take negative with this defense today. They did their job. The offense didn't. 20 we if, Coming into the game, we knew 20 points was not going to be enough for this offense to win the game, and it came to be true. Close. Like I thought 27 would be have to be the win, but it just took 24 points, and Browns offense couldn't do it. But yeah, shout out to the defense. The pass rusher is great. Myles Garrett was dominant. Um, yeah, the secondary didn't give up any really big miscommunications, which was a good sign to see finally. Um, yeah, Deion Jones played today. Uh, I'm wondering if we'll see him more as the season goes on, and less of Jacob Phillips, because once again Jacob Phillips was being bulldozed in the run game. He's struggling tackling, and there's some obviously bad drives where the tackling was awful again. But for the most part, you can't blame this loss on the defense. This falls squarely on the offense, and I can say the special teams. The special teams did not play well either. They allowed a big punt return to get Baltimore in scoring position. They Justin Tucker is just dominant. They were completely. It just was like the difference between the Ravens special teams and the Browns special teams was just as wide as Lake Erie, as I said. It was a huge difference. Cade York was fine. He made his 2 field goals. He obviously missed the last one, but that was blocked, and it was 60 yards. So hard to kind of blame a guy that was blocked in for a 60-yard field goal. But there was a situation where the kick return, we had some poor one kick return where we shouldn't have returned it. Um, it just shows the difference how good a special teams can be towards your team and how helpful it can be. Their punter was great. They consistently flipped the field position. I think he had a 69-yard field punt. Now Corey, our kicker, our punter, had a good game too, but it just showed kind of how important a really good special teams can be for a team, because it helped the field position, and it helped the Ravens offense that was struggling to score points, because a lot of the scores from Baltimore started in positive field position for them. Let's see. So their field goal They started the first field goal was a regular drive, but they started a the second field goal of the game for Baltimore was on Cleveland's side of the field after a really good punt return by Devin Duvernay. Got him into that field position, and then they had a good drive. There's one drive where at the end of the second quarter, where it was pretty much Lamar Jackson being Superman, as I said. So, but yeah, excuse me. Yeah, it wasn't great a special teams day again, but yeah, when the team is struggling, you got to have all three phases of the game kind of help out. And today it was partial performances by the offense and the special teams, and the defense kind of played them at one of the more complete games of all three phases. Which, if you said that before the game, I don't know, I don't know how many people would have believed me. So, yeah, it was a rough loss. They are now 2-5. Cincinnati won today, so they are now going to be, I believe, 2 games back. I believe they're 4-3, just like Baltimore. So they're 2 games back. Next week's a must win. They're playing the Bengals on Halloween on Monday night. They got a long week here, so extra days of rest and kind of strategy to get ready. Because this Browns have to win this. If they don't, it's going to be a huge uphill battle to get back into this playoff race. They're barely hanging on right now, but thanks for the AFC North struggles early on. They are holding on for dear life. But yeah, this is not much else to say. It's just another loss where just a few things go wrong, and they just couldn't get it over. Couldn't get the right things to happen, and that's all it takes in the NFL. A couple things go the wrong direction, couple calls, couple throws, and you lose. So, yeah, not much else to say about this loss. It's another tough one, and we'll see how they kind of come out of this, because next week is going to be a big game. Big game. It's a must win, and as Derpy Gaming says, well, at least we have the Cavs, which is good. Yeah, we have the Cavs tonight. Home opener is tonight, so kind of some positive things after last night. They dominated the Bulls, so it's going to be a fun night there. But here they are. Browns are sitting at 2-5, and we'll see what happens this week, because it's going to be a must win. Thanks for joining me. This is the WFNY BrownsCast with just Joe today. Part of the Evergreen Podcast Network, and I'll see you again this week for the preview of the Bengals game, probably around Wednesday or Thursday. So yeah, thanks for joining me, and go Browns.